Hello gamers and welcome back to AJ Completes WWE 2K18 My Career Mode, except this week's episode is not going to feature much completing of WWE 2K18 My Career Mode. It's more just going to be a bit of a grumble about how trying to complete WWE 2K18 My Career Mode is becoming more and more a bit of a slog. You see, as you can see on screen right now, I did record gameplay for this week's episode. I did a whole episode recorded. I got an hour and a half of recording over 5 weeks of wrestling action, and fuck all happened in it. Basically, nothing happened. I genuinely got to the end of the episode, turned my Elgato off, and went, well, that was a bit of a waste of time, really, wasn't it? So, rather than giving you another substandard episode where things just sort of trundle along and I'm not really into it, I may as well take an episode to explain to you why I'm not into certain things and why this career mode has sort of started off as so much promise, to be honest with you. It started off like a freight train, and now the freight train is derailed and ground to a halt and been privatised and been cancelled because it was actually run by Southern Trains. So, let's just get into it. This is basically going to be me breaking down my various... There are 2 main gripes I have with WWE 2K18 My Career Mode that I thought I'd get out of the way in this video. This video was also inspired by a great video by someone. If you like my videos, you absolutely should be subscribed to this person. They're called Attack Slug. They are my absolute favourite WWE game Let's Player on YouTube. And they just did a post-mortem of their WWE 2K18 My Career Mode series, analysing, you know, career mode as a whole. And I'll link that down in the description box below. You should absolutely go watch that once you're done watching this one. Because a lot of my points here, it was kind of nice to hear someone who's so experienced with... I mean, look, me and Nathan played every single WWE game there has ever been made for that series we did a little while ago on the channel. But he's played a lot of the career modes in depth. He's done universe modes. He does series of all of the games on the channel all the time. If anyone knows what a good and a bad career mode looks like in a WWE game, it's him. And it was nice to see him sort of echo. It was one of those things where you watch it and you sort of go, yes, I agree with you. It's not just me. You know what I mean? So, absolutely, I'd encourage you to go watch his video after we're done here. But for now, let's get on with my grievances. I have my tea, so I'm going to take a sip of tea before we get on with the first one. Oh, very nice. I mean, the main issue I'm having with career mode at the moment is basically it feels like things have completely ground to a halt. And the progression is very stunted. The progression doesn't feel like... I mean, it kind of splits into 2 categories, and I'll deal with them separately. The literal progression in terms of upgrading the character, building Robbie Beckton, the rising star of the British indie scene, coming into NXT, blah, blah, blah. That feels very stunted, for a reason I'll get into in a minute. And the actual storyline progression of being a character backstage in the WWE universe feels like that's kind of ground to a halt as well, for separate reasons. Let's deal with the character progression first. Character progression, basically, this game really... I'll start this off by basically saying, and I've said this before, this game really, really, really feels like it was designed to have microtransactions in it. I am absolutely convinced of that. The more I've played of career mode, the more I am convinced this game was going to have microtransactions, probably up to around the time NBA 2K18 absolutely tanked and everyone shat on it, deservedly so, for its own microtransactions, loot box bollocks. And 2K, I'm willing to bet that 2K probably were planning to do a similar system for WWE, and then saw what happened with that game and went, do you know what? Let's pull the microtransactions. Get them out of WWE 2K18. We'll avoid that. Because they did that big announcement about a month before the game was out. It was like, nope, there will be no microtransactions in 2K18, WWE. And people were like, yay, that's great. But this game feels like it has a microtransaction-based grind to it. It is an absolute grind to upgrade your character, mainly because absolutely everything in this game, everything relies on VC. Absolutely, I'm not kidding you. Everything in this game relies on VC. The unlocking of rare legendary characters, legendary wrestlers, you have to buy them using VC. Moves cost VC. Certain clothing items cost VC. Attribute points. You can't use attribute points to increase your wrestler's skills without paying VC. So at this point in the game, as you're watching now, I have about 2 or 3 attribute points just sitting around that I want to use, but I can't because they cost VC. And of course, the game does have loot boxes. We know that already. They cost a lot of VC. But just to add to that, the items in the loot boxes still cost VC to use. So that's right, you have to pay for loot boxes using VC, and then pay for what you unlock in them using VC. And, you know, everything being kept behind walls of VC, which, fair enough in its own right, would be fine, but you get pitiful amounts of VC for doing things. Like, in this, hopefully Editing Adam will show you the first match I had in this taping run. I had a random match with Dash Wilder. We'll get onto that in a bit. Literally, all the matches in this episode would have just been random, you know, jobber matches, I guess, just thrown together, multi-man matches or whatever. But I had a match with Dash Wilder, because why not? Okay. So I deliberately went in there and went, you know what, I'm going to try and make this a really good match. You know, back and forth, 4 stars, everything else, whatever. You know, really try and get a good score, have a great match. Went in there after about 20 minutes, I got about 200 VC. 200 VC. About that, maybe it was more than that. But just for context, the base level loot box cost 2,500 VC. Most attribute points cost minimum 1,000 VC to just use. So that's barely even covering one of them. Dave Meltzer can literally be ejaculating in the front row going, my god, this is a 12-star absolute phenomenon. Kenny Omega is just yesterday's news, and you'll get about 300 VC for it. It's pathetic, quite frankly. And there's other ways to earn VC. Obviously, I know you're about to say that, but even they are similarly poorly balanced. I mean, at the moment, you know, my t-shirt sales, that's another way to increase your weekly VC. You can earn, you know, upwards of about 100, 200 VC a week just off t-shirt sales. But the game is nagging me because it's like, oh, your t-shirt sales are really low. You should change your signature shirt. I have. It's made no difference. Game, and I'll get onto this in a bit. You know, Robbie Beckton is stone cold right now, and I don't mean in the Steve Austin sense. I mean in the no one gives a fuck about him. No one is buying his shirt. Doesn't matter how cool the design is. Doesn't matter if it glows in the dark. Doesn't matter if it's like a Naomi design. It has glowing neon elements. No one's buying it because he's in pre-show matches on the pay-per-view, and so what's the point? So there's barely, I'm getting barely any VC off that either. So I'm barely earning any VC a week. My character is just grinding to a halt. And I know what you're about to say at this point. Some of you are probably saying, wait, AJ, wait. There is Road to Glory mode. Yes, there is. And it's fucking broken. If any of you have watched my streams on the Armbar Arcade Twitch channel, I'm going to link them in the description box below. You can go watch some of the clips I've got from previous streams of me trying to play Road to Glory mode. For me, it's utterly broken. And in itself, even if the mode worked fine, which it doesn't, I would still argue, what is the business of attaching online multiplayer to the single-player campaign? I'm doing a single-player offline career mode, and yet the best way to progress in it is to play the online multiplayer. What sort of Mass Effect 3 nonsense is that? And like I say, this is all under this assumption that this mode works, which it doesn't. It just doesn't. The game is broken and DOA just on a core level because of the input lag. I don't know if anyone else has got such bad issues with input lag, but honestly, I can press the reversal button 3 seconds before the icon comes up on screen, and I'll still get too late. Too late. Oh, you were too late. You missed the button on that. I pressed it 3 seconds early. That is how bad the input lag is to me. Consistently, it's about 2 to 3 seconds behind when I'm pressing the button before anything happens on screen. And most of the time, it doesn't matter anyway because the other guy's kicking my ass anyway. Like, I think another issue with Road to Glory is that you earn a lot of VC off of having great matches. And I'll give the game credit. You don't lose too much VC if you lose the match. As long as you have a good match, kind of doesn't matter who wins or loses. The problem is, though, most people who play online in these games play online like Call of Duty, in that they love to headshot people and teabag their corpses. They're not interested in having a competitive back-and-forth match. Oh, yes. Some people are. I will give credit. Some people are. I've had a couple of genuinely really fun matches online. Maybe it's because the other guy was as rubbish as I am at the game. Maybe it's because the other guy kind of understood, the other person kind of understood the point of the mode and just wanted to have a good back-and-forth match to earn plenty of VC. But most of the time, it's like I said, people just want to go in there, kick your ass, and then teabag your corpse. But it's that sort of mentality of, I'm going to destroy you and just batter you and just keep mashing stomp button, stomp button, stomp button, stomp button. Oh, you reverse one of them, I've reversed straight back, and so we're into another move. And I also suspect, I'm not sure if this is the case, but I also suspect that part of the online being so frustrating is because that you get some of these players who've started off on the same level as you, so you're matched against them, but they have things like the pre-order pack, like DLC packs with like career mode boosters and stuff. So they have way more perks and skills and everything available to their characters. I don't know. Maybe that's just me, but I genuinely it wouldn't surprise me if that's the thing. So Road to Glory is broken, and if that's the only way to consistently earn decent VC, then the career mode's kind of balked. What all that contributes to, really, is a feeling that there's no progression. The progression of actually building a character, which is kind of key to any sports game career mode. I mean, you just look at Nathan's UFC 2 career mode, you look at Jimmy Rogers, every training camp he goes through, you see the stats increasing, he's unlocking new moves, new abilities, new perks, you know, and it's all building forward, and it all contributes to this feeling of your character evolving. You start out as basically some arse off the street who can barely execute, you know, a punch, and then, you know, by now he's now flying kneeing fools all over the place, just giving out flying knees all over the place. And, you know, and it's the same in other sports games. You know, in FIFA, you're progressing your player in that. In F1 and NASCAR games, you'd build up your race team, you'd help test the car, you'd unlock upgrades, you'd do all this kind of thing, you'd have contract offers for new teams. All of that progression would happen. But in WWE, it is all locked behind loot box mechanics and made into a grind, which isn't even well executed in the context of that fucked up context, because there's no microtransactions. And honestly, it wouldn't surprise me if 2K19 does have microtransactions, or they just patch it into 2K18. Given, you know, 2K and Take-Two's fetish for microtransactions at the moment, I mean, we can hope that the Battlefront 2 controversy and absolute explosion that happened over there maybe starts to put people off microtransactions, but I wouldn't put it past Take-Two. So, you know, there's that, and it just kind of ruins the progression of the career mode, because honestly, what's the point in playing if you're not unlocking new stuff for your character? You can't really upgrade your moves. You're not getting any better. The opponents are getting better, but you're not. So you're just at the same level, doing the same moves with the same impact that doesn't really do that, and you just know that this is going to happen or that going to happen because you guys still on terrible speed rating or something or other, whatever, and you can't unlock any new skills or perks or whatever. And that's just frustrating. It really makes you think, why the hell am I playing this? If I'm not, what's the point? But maybe, you know, the storyline arc of actually progressing through the WWE, being a wrestler in the WWE, being involved in storylines and matches, maybe that saves the... no, that's a crock piece of shit as well. Yeah, so that's my other issue with the game. The storyline arc, I mean, there really isn't one. There is no clear progression from the storyline aspect either. It's like the game started off all brimming with enthusiasm, like, yeah, you're in NXT, let's give you a title match on your first NXT pay-per-view. Oh, and you have to win? That's one thing I hate on itself, the random objectives where you have to win, which makes the game feel very linear. For a game that's supposed to be about branching paths, that suddenly makes the game very, very linear. Like, it doesn't even make sense either. It's like 4 weeks into your NXT run, you're on an you're on the Takeover show, wrestling Bobby Roode for the NXT Championship, and you have to win. Like, what? Like, surely it'll be, in many ways, it'll be more credible from a wrestling perspective if you, like, lost the match, but put in a gutsy performance and earned respect. You know, like, we see it all the time in indie wrestling. Fucking hell, it happens all the time in wrestling. It's like, oh, you know, maybe he'll get that big win, but he just fell short. But, you know, the guy raised his arm after the match, and the fans are like, yeah, you did your best, buddy, you did well. You know, that happens all the time. Maybe in this case it would work, you know, because who would expect someone that new to come in and beat Bobby Roode on their first night? So maybe you can have a situation where, I mean, if you do win, amazing, that's just phenomenal. But if you don't, then maybe there's a whole thing where it's like, oh, you earn respect, and you go on another career path. Like William Regal's like, ah, son, you really earned, you really, you know, you proved yourself tonight in there, son. I'm going to put you in a tag team with this guy, and you're going to be the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic, and something like that. You know, kind of like the older games. You know, the games we all fantasize about on PS2. We all, you know, have that nostalgia fetish for. Rightfully so. That's one thing those games did really well. Branching story paths that felt believable. Like if you lost the big match, you lost the big match and would have to deal with the consequences of that. You'd have to go on a different path. You wouldn't get the good ending. But if you didn't win the title at WrestleMania, you wouldn't get the good ending. You'd get a different ending. Realistic. You wouldn't just go, now you got to try again. Rewind back to the start of the day and try again. It's like, no. And especially in this case where it feels very arbitrary and very random. You know, couple that with very bad pacing for the career mode. Like I say, in NXT, at least you were heading along at the speed of a runaway freight train. You won the title within a month. But then, it's almost like everything sort of stopped for a few weeks. It was like, oh, I've won the NXT title, now what? I don't know. go and have a chat with Johnny Gargano, see if he wants anything doing. Okay, I'll run in on his match. Now what? See you next week. Right. Next week, have a word with someone backstage. Okay, I'll go and have a chat with this guy. Oh, we'll have a random match. All right. And I'm sat there like, here's the NXT champion. Not even walking around with the belt backstage, by the way. I think that's a minor issue that they really needed to correct. So I'm literally sat there like, okay, I'm the NXT champion. It doesn't feel like anything has changed. So now what? And then finally, Triple H randomly shows. I'm like, oh, you're going to the main roster. Why? Reasons. Okay, am I defending my NXT title on the way out? Maybe. And then Cassius Ohno shows up like, yeah, no, you're going to have a title match with me. All right, fine, good. And then another objective pops up. You have to win this match. I'm like, that's not generally what happens. Normally you lose your title before you go up to the main. Never mind, we'll see where we go. And then it's like I beat Cassius Ohno, cut that massive babyface promo to signify the end of my NXT run, and everybody forgot I was NXT champion. It was like, there we go, no one cares. And I just showed up on Raw, and it was like, okay, now you're doing things on Raw and you got to prove yourself. How? By, see what Samoa Joe wants. I want you to do me laundry and go fetch me a coffee. Oh, and beat up Seth Rollins. All right. And I'm sat there like, I'm still the NXT champion. Do you not want to do anything with this belt? I mean, all they had to do was literally put a line in where Stephanie or Triple H just said, hey, when people go up to the main roster, they vacate the NXT title. That's all they had to say. And I'd be fine. I'd be like, ugh, okay, a bit of a cop-out. But there you go. Just explain shit. You know what I mean? It's things like that that just are frustrating. And then, like I say, you get to the main roster, and then you're just doing fuck all. Like, I ranted so much about it, about the fact that my first 2 months on the main roster, I had a grand total of 1 match. And then, you know, after arsing around being Samoa Joe's PA, it felt like none of the conversation items, and that's another thing in its own right, the very generic conversation answers, and the fact that they can be very, some of them, like, I've more found them funny, to be honest with you, but a lot of them just don't fit the characters, because they are so generic and just sort of like, generic baddie wrestler, I'm going to destroy you from the planets, and blah, and I'm like, sat there, I'm like, that's not what Robbie Beckton would say. Like, he would literally will himself into existence in the scriptwriter's office and go, are you fucking serious? Well, fucking saying that, you bellend. And related to that, there's also no real feedback as to what answers do better for each track. Like, what answers are better for the babyface track and what answers are better for the heel track. It would just be like, oh, they have an effect, and then they wouldn't tell you what effect each answer would have during the promo. So there was all that. And then when the Samoa Joe business was done, you remember I asked him, I was like, if you're the best, how can I beat you? And there was that tense moment, like Samoa Joe was like, no, you're never beating me. Oh. And you're like, oh, this is leading to something. Next week, bleh. Sorry, were you expecting something to come of that? And so then it was like, oh, you got to go attack Cesaro. Why? You got to go start a feud. All right. I went and attacked Cesaro. He then beat me up a load. And then it was like, oh, Vince doesn't think you're that big a star now. You told me to do that. You told me to go beat up Cesaro, and then he sort of fluked a brawl win and then interfered when I was walking out to the ring, and now, what? Like, I'm doing what you asked of me, game. So if you follow the game's strict instructions, you go nowhere. You end up being less over, and you end up just being like an absolute jobber to the stars. And if you try and do your own thing, I mean, so far I haven't seen any effect of it. I haven't unlocked fan favourite level 3, so I can't do my own promos. Maybe that does something. Some of the times I've tried to get an interview with Renee Young, not really much has happened there. Or most of the time someone's already having an interview with Renee Young, so I can't do it. And running in to interfere with people, does that even have an effect? The brawling backstage thing with random people, I can't seem to be able to do that at the moment, because apparently I'm in a storyline. Although, for the recording of this episode, I was just in random matches. I wasn't in a storyline. I go into Todd Mullin, you go, oh, big week, you got a match. I'm like, okay. And then it'd be some random multi-man match or some bollocks. And I'd come out, and then he'd be like, oh, that was alright, next week. Okay. And yeah, I'm walking around, and I can't attack people backstage, because apparently I'm in a storyline. Well, this is a real, like, slow burn here. I mean, this is like, fucking forget slow burn. This is like a tiny, this is like a tea-like candle underneath a swimming pool. That's how much of a slow burn we're talking here. Like, yeah, just really cook that slow burn in a slow cooker for the next 3 years. It feels like I don't have that much control over Robbie Beckton's destiny. And if I sit back and let the game try and have control over his destiny, they don't know what they're doing either. They're either asleep at the wheel or randomly jerking themselves awake and doing something completely random with no sense and then forgetting they even did something as they go back to sleep. It's literally like the career mode went, right, you're in NXT now. You're going to be on the TakeOver show and you've got to win the trophy. Yeah, you've won the title. And you sat there like, well, I've won the NXT title, now what? And then like a month later, oh, yeah, you've been dropped into the main roster. Yeah, go. Yeah, you do a promo. Yeah, there you go. Last match. Yeah, you're on the main roster now. Simone Jones PA. Do your thing. The P-ups to Sarah. And you literally just sat there like, twiddling your thumbs like, I'll just wait for you to wake up again. Because apparently me trying to make my own destiny around here isn't really doing anything. It's like, at the end of this recording, I may splice the footage in now, editing out and put the footage in now, I literally just went, you know what, fuck this. I went out and I attacked Brock Lesnar after his match with Roman Reigns. I literally went and beat up Brock Lesnar of all people, came backstage, Todd Mullen said nothing different, so I wasn't sure if that had any difference whatsoever. I then stormed into Vince McMahon's office, demanded he draft me to SmackDown. He did. There's no question. Okay, you're on SmackDown now. Will that make any difference? I've got no idea. Probably not. Between, you know, the two issues I've outlined, which is the no clear storyline progression and the utterly grindy, horrendously bogged down, you know, progression in terms of upgrading and developing a character. I don't know. I've got no faith that this is going to get better. And I'm going to have faith. Ooh, I'm going to have faith. Yeah. So that's really it. I'm kind of losing the will to live with the series, to be honest with you. I'm planning, because I think in-game we're up to around mid-March now in timeline, so that's pretty close to WrestleMania. So I'm hoping, I'm just going to try everything I can, just throw everything at the wall, see what sticks. Hopefully I'll at least get on the WrestleMania card, if not in some sort of title match. Although knowing this game, I'll probably just end up in catering, serving John Cena his sandwiches or something. So, you know, we'll see how we go, and then if things really start to kick into gear again, then maybe I'll stick with it. But if not, I've got a new series lined up to take over, and I'm pretty excited about that. So, win-win ultimately. But yeah, WWE 2K18 career mode, poorly paced, and you know, the core game's good. I like the gameplay, it's still fun, and I'm sure I can get a lot of fun out of Universe Mode. That's probably what I'll do instead. I might stream that on Twitch. Maybe me and Nay can get him. I could bring Nay in and get involved on that one. We'll play full-on fantasy booking. Given we're two massive UK indie wrestling nerds, that could go very, very well or very wrong. We'll see how it goes. But do let me know if you have played WWE 2K18, My Career. Do let me know if these are criticism you kind of agree with or disagree with, even. Sound off in the comments below. For now, we'll see where we go next week. I'm off to make a fresh cup of tea, give my voice a chill, and not play 2K18 for a bit. It's not you. No, it is you. It is entirely you, game. We need some time apart. And we'll see you guys next time in the Armbar Arcade.